What's up, guys? We are back with another Bandai Tamashii Nations review, but we are taking a look at the MonsterArts side of the house today, and we're taking a look at a big one. So we've got, well, literally a big one. We're taking a look at the MonsterArts Mecha King Ghidorah Shinjuku Decisive Battle Special Set. This thing is enormous, and it of course comes in a humongous box for that very purpose. You've got him here plastered on the front. It's like actually embossed on the front, which looks really, really good. One spine just has his name running up and down. The other spine gives you a grayscale shot of him. And then in typical Tamashii Nations fashion, like this is still very familiar Bandai Tamashii Nations stuff, you get a huge, literally huge spread of product shots showcasing how he moves and some of the absolutely ridiculous accessories that are in this box. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our SH MonsterArts Mecha King Ghidorah. So our Mecha Space Dragon, and this thing is pretty nuts. I mean, it's by all accounts a big focal point for a MonsterArts display, just, I mean, by virtue of what it is, right? It's really big, it's super metallic, and it's just got a crazy design. Like, King Ghidorah is obviously cool to begin with, but then they went and, you know, made him a cyborg because, you know, why not? Why not ratchet things up even more? And this thing is very familiar in the sense that if you have other King Ghidorahs, you're probably going to know how this thing is going to move. He moves okay, but he's also kind of at the mercy of the design of what this thing is. I mean, it's an armless, three-headed dragon with enormous wings. It's not quite as crazy as, say, the legendary King Ghidorah that I took a look at a while back, but it's still pretty gnarly. There is a lot of articulation here also, but a lot in the sense that there's a lot of joint work, not in the sense that it's the most dynamic thing ever. The big thing for this figure is ball pegs. So like all of the necks, plural, and the tails are ball jointed. So you can shimmy them up and down and side to side and sort of do this. You do have to watch though, if you push them too far, you are gonna pop them apart. Granted, you can just put them right back together, but it can be a little frustrating at times. Even the jaws are ball pegs, which I thought was kind of weird. So they do have a little shimmy there, and you can have them do a bite. But all of the heads do have pretty decent range. I will say you do have to watch moving them around, just for fact that they're gonna pop off if you try to extend the range too far. We do surprisingly have torso articulation here. So he goes up and down, and you've got tilt side to side, and you've got some rotation. Like, I'm not expecting him to be the most dynamic thing ever because of what he is, but that's more than I expected. The chest ports do hinge open. These are die cast too, and there is die cast a little bit more throughout the figure. The wings on the back have really good articulation, and also in the sense that they are very sturdy, and that's a big thing for this figure. He's really sturdy. Like with the legendary King Ghidorah, you have to use the stands that that guy comes with. You do not need a stand for this, which I just like at face value. So you've got really good hinge, and then up and down. They sort of lock into place after a while, but they do rest neutrally very well. The legs on this thing have surprisingly more articulation than I would expect. So you can kick the legs out to make him sort of, you know, if you want to have him flying back, so just if they're sort of jutting backwards while you've got him in the air. If you're crazy enough to hoist him up like that, you do have a knee, which is again pretty decent with range for something so big. And then you've got slight hinge and even a little bit of rocker down at those ankles. The tails are very much just like the neck, so an absolute mountain of ball pegs that just, I mean, this thing is huge. It's over a foot long for each tail, and you can sort of, you know, shimmy them. You get them a pretty good crook like that. It's not bad. But really, what's really cool is that you can definitely get this guy into a flying pose just by virtue of having all of these ball pegs and the fact that that torso does move. I was really curious how that was going to be achieved, and it works surprisingly well. So this guy does have a lot of articulation. Now, again, a lot of articulation in the sense that there's like 8 million ball pegs in here, but he still does have some pretty good range. He's not the most dynamic thing ever because he has no arms, and you're not going to have him in some crazy running pose or anything like that, but everything moves. I mean, everything moves exactly like I would expect it to, and it very much mimics the clunkiness in many ways, for lack of a better phrase, of an actual Toho suit. Now, as far as the overall look and feel, right out of the gate, we have a pretty crazy design, and that's not anything to do with the toy, just at face value. Mecha King Ghidorah has always had a pretty crazy design. King Ghidorah was already a three-headed golden space dragon, so now he is a cyborg. So you just get so much different stuff going on with this figure. It's not just a space dragon. It's so much more. He's huge, and we'll do size comparisons, but he's tall. He's more wide and deep than he is tall, but he's still a very imposing, humongous figure. You've got mixed media because, like I said, there is some die-cast to this guy. But for me, I mean, it's really just about this design being translated into figure form. And it's a MonsterArts figure, and they pretty much always nail it when it comes to the overall sculpt and accuracy. But this thing looks so good. I really can't stress how lustrous this gold is. Not specifically the wings, but specifically the actual dragon parts of King Ghidorah. So he is just super shiny, tons and tons of metallic gold, and then you've got different gold for the wings. You've got silvers for the actual cyborg parts, and there's just something really crazy about this design that really translates well into figure form. So much texture all over him, and that's really a huge facet of this figure, is that from the wings to the dragons to the tails, you know, to the legs, all of it, it's all covered in texture. There's literally no surface that's just flat except for some small areas on the wings and the torso. But even then, there's little, you know, techno bits and bobs, little greebling details throughout that work really well here. I, again, do really love the way these wings are done. They are incredibly rigid, like they don't want to give, and I'm really happy with that. I'm happy that this guy is so solidly put together that he doesn't need a stand. These wings are not going to weigh him down, they're not going to cause a problem, and they're not oversized to the point where they are literally, you know, going to take up your entire display. He's big, but he's not as big as some of the other stuff we've gotten so far. I really think they absolutely nailed it. I really like the detail on the faces of specifically, you know, the actual King Ghidorah heads. The mecha head is just, you know, it's almost generic, like space dragon kind of head, but it definitely flows with the rest. It's still got, you know, the horns coming off the back. Everything is very much similar. So you've got the spines running down the neck, and that all very much mimics the other two, you know, quote unquote living heads, I suppose. We do have moving parts on the torso, which we'll talk about. So these are for some attachment. There's a piece that pops out in the middle for all of the crazy stuff that juts out of his belly. But this guy looks fantastic. He's humongous, he's gaudy, he's covered in texture, covered in sculpt, covered in paint, and I can't stress that enough. There's a lot of paint all over the body specifically when it comes to this gold to really make him stand out, but they did just a bang-up job with this. He looks great. He looks like he jumped right out of the film. Now for some size comparisons, let's start with another MonsterArts, and this is the MonsterArts Bio Goji. So this is the one from Godzilla vs. Biollante, and this is the same suit that appears in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, so it gives you a pretty good idea of where these two stack up. Now, like I said, this isn't the tallest figure in the world, but there's a lot of other facets to this figure because it's wide, and it's also very deep because of how far back those tails go, but it's still got some size. I mean, even on this Godzilla figure, it's still way up there because of those wings. And then while a lot of other stuff maybe doesn't compare all that well, you know, let's do a few other figures. So here's a Figuarts. There's Dragon Ball Z Turles. And then here's a Mythic Legions figure. Here is Thistlethorn. And let's just do one more. And here is a Masterverse figure, the newest Faker that they've put out. So these don't really work in terms of actual scaling. Obviously, this would never work. It's not meant to, but it gives you an idea of exactly what we're working with. He is really wide. He's definitely really deep, but he's still going to be a taller figure amongst pretty much anything you've got related to MonsterArts. Now, as far as accessories goes, Mecha King Ghidorah has quite a bit. There is a lot of other stuff besides just the figure in this box. We don't get any energy effects, which I'm always going to kind of harp on that because I feel like of all things, like these figures should have them, but they don't. He does include some pretty crazy stuff though, so it's not like you're not getting good stuff here. To start with, we do get an entire extra set of wings, and these are just as functional, the exact same system as the others, so they move in and out, they hinge, they kind of bobble up and down. They do allow you to actually, you know, make them look like wings that could function, but these are the battle damage wings. So you've got two full sets of wings, depending on how you want to display them, because of course, you know, he does have his tattered and broken wings for a decent bit in the film, so that is a big thing for him when it comes to his looks. And then we get the other stuff. So beyond the wings, what we get are all of the capture devices that Mecha King Ghidorah has. So there are the 4 opening ports on the torso that I mentioned that hinge open, allow for 4 different capture cables. You've got 2 with smaller grabbers and 2 with larger ones, and they all hinge, so they actually do function. You can actually use these to grapple Godzilla. And then the center of his torso here, the entire plate itself actually comes out, and you can pop in, what was this? This is the machine hand is what it was called. So this is all to capture Godzilla, and you can, chomp him shut. It comes with this entire setup to allow you to display it. So you've got the base, you've got the Tamashii arm, and then you've got 2 of this little, sort of, catty corner kind of thing here for the 2 smaller capture cables. This guy has die cast on it. These 2 metal rods in the center, at least those 2 in the middle, maybe all of them actually, are die cast. So it is very rigid and it is very robust. And once you've got it like this, it's not going anywhere. Now, it does present a huge space issue when it comes to actually displaying it. So I don't know if there's any chance I would even begin to be able to display it like this. But it looks so good. I mean, he's so crazy looking with this thing. There's so much stuff, and it's like a foot long too. This whole thing is really big. These are bendy wires too. Now, I would urge some caution on these because once you kind of really bend them, they might be hard to get them to look, as good as they do now. So kind of watch out for it, but you can easily and effectively use all of this to actually capture your Godzilla MonsterArts figures, and that's what they're meant for. That's what they do in the movie, and that's what they're meant for here as well. It is a very elaborate setup. It's not like it's difficult to put it together, but these things do work really well, and they just sort of sit on top of these little pegs here. So it's all very easy to put together. There's just a lot of crazy claw attachments that you can pop onto this guy, but I absolutely love this. So yeah, at the end of the day, this is a really solid figure. I'm very happy with the way it turned out. And it just looks pretty wild. And it's going to be a huge focal point in any kind of display you have. The one big caveat, of course, is that this is a very expensive action figure, so you've really got to want this thing to have any interest in buying it, but it does absolutely kind of steal the show when you're going up against other Godzilla figures or anything like that that's in this arena. Tons of texture, tons of detail, size, shelf presence, and just a crazy array of accessories because of all the weird stuff that this thing is capable of doing. So that's going to do it for this look at the SH MonsterArts Mecha King Ghidorah. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.